but December 9th, 2011, we were on a patrol. It was a dismounted patrol, so we were walking around in a village. The village was called Mama Carez, and I stepped on an IED, and I triggered an explosion underneath my right foot, and it led to the amputation of my right leg below the knee, and a little bit of damage to my left leg and left hand and forearm, and a minor TBI, minor traumatic brain injury. And honestly, that morning, guys, when I woke up, I didn't know that later on that day my life was about to change. I didn't realize that. In fact, a second before the blast, I was a strong, healthy, confident, aggressive Marine leader. And then a second after the blast, I was laying on my back. I was in a lot of pain. I wasn't confident. I wasn't even sure that I was going to live, and I needed help. I needed assistance. And lucky for me, I had my Marines and Afghans with me, and they took care of me. They threw some tourniquets on, patched me up. They got me off the battlefield. They took care of me because that's what Marines do, and they got me to a medical facility, and that started my next journey. And what had been normal the 28 years, the 28 previous years of my life, had now changed. And I think the biggest thing for me was identity. I went from loving sports, being active, loving the outdoors, loving the Marine thing, to a hospital bed where I couldn't even sit up on my own. I had tubes and running through my body, IVs. I think the only thing I controlled at that point was I had a little a button that I could press that threw a little bit more Dilaudid into my system, and I had that thing so maxed out that I wasn't even controlling that anymore. It was tough mentally and emotionally, going from a point of absolute confidence and control to a point of I didn't really know exactly who I was anymore. It was interesting. It was only 6 days from the battlefield in Afghanistan to get back out here in San Diego. The military does a good job with wounded. I think it's important for you guys to know that. And I was really taken care of well. And I was out here in San Diego and reunited with my family and adults. I think it was tough for them. They were a little bit standoffish, not knowing how to react or how I was doing. It was my biggest influence was my 5-year-old daughter at the time. Her name was Lupe, and she really quickly accepted me and treated me like she always did. She jumped up on my bed, gave me a hug. She poked and prodded, and she was pressing buttons that she probably wasn't supposed to be pressing, and she was trying to look under my bandages, and it was great. And finally, she was good. She was content. Her curiosity was reached. She was happy. She looked at me and said, "Daddy, can we set the Wii up in the hospital room?" And the Wii is a little video game. And at that point, I realized, I think kids think of their parents as superheroes, and she used to. And even though I was in the bed, she still looked at me the exact same way, and she just wanted to play video games, and she was happy that I was going to be home with her for Christmas. And it was at that point that I realized I can start focusing on the future. Instead of focusing on what I can't do, it was now focus on what I can do. And it wasn't a switch that you can just flip and change your mindset. It was I found that setting goals was a good way to gradually do that. And I set the 2 big goals that I remember. One was to be standing when the rest of my Marines, that's not them, those Afghan people, but when the rest of my Marines came back from Afghanistan, I wanted to be standing. And I had 3.5 months to do that. And that was important to me, and that helped me get up in the morning and go to physical therapy and work hard and go to prosthetics. And my other goal was to run an Ironman. I hadn't done endurance sports before, but I figured I wanted to get back to a physical lifestyle. Honestly, that was the hardest thing that I could think of at the time, so I set a goal at running an Ironman, and that's where my paths crossed with the Challenge Athletes Foundation. And I'm very thankful for that. Shortly before I had a run leg, I had actually this foot. I was sent out. They started walking alongside me and supporting me, and they sent me out to a triathlon camp, a para-triathlon camp in Florida, where I got to spend time with other combat wounded Marines and sailors, and I also got to spend time with other people with disabilities that weren't necessarily military. And that was kind of new to me. Everyone that I saw with prosthetics had an IED or a gunshot wound. And now it's people, there's other people in the world that have these disabilities. And it was a really cool camp because the people there were at different levels. Some were new like me, but some had already done triathlons. Some had already run marathons. Some had climbed mountains. So that network, being in that group was amazing. I can ask the questions. I can look up the people. I can call someone up. I can talk about what kind of medications they were on or what worked for them. And that network is huge. And I think as being on the CAF team, being with other disabled athletes, that's really big. We impact each other. I think we motivate and inspire each other, and we're each other's fuel to reach goals and to come up with new, crazier goals. That's the cool thing. When you see someone doing something, it's like, wow, that's awesome. I think I can do that. I'm going to try it. And that's you keep going forward and keep growing. After that camp, CAF, they geared me up. They got me this cool little spandex triathlon suit, which my wife still makes fun of me in. And it got me signed up for my first triathlon. And within that first year, I think I ran 3 triathlons and marathon. And then the big one, they were walking with me step by step, hitting milestones with me. And then the big one kind of came where CAF, with a partnership they have with Got Chocolate Milk, I ended up on a team with Heinz Ward, retired Pittsburgh Steeler, a football player, which is cool because I'm originally from Pittsburgh. I was on his team to run the Ironman in Kona, the Ironman World Championships this past October 2013. What a cool experience, man. I don't know if I think I would have eventually made it to an Ironman finish line or start line, but there's absolutely no way that I would have done within 2 years of being injured. And that was CAF walking alongside me and nudging me and pushing me. And it's been amazing working with the Challenge Athletes Foundation and the athletes, adults and children that they support.